Spy games. Well, no one does it better than China. They're everywhere. We all know that the Chinese government has infiltrated all aspects of different countries, be it virology labs, universities, and there's some allegations that they even have police agencies in our country and in the United States. Hi, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilley and Jamil Jivani. Brian, the latest that we heard from, and we got the information not from the Canadian intelligence agencies, it was from the Pentagon. They released a statement that what is being dubbed a Chinese spy balloon had made its way through Canada and all the way down to the United States, was shown hovering over the state of Montana. We can see some images here. This is a troubling development, considering, Brian, all of the issues that we have with China trying to spy on us, trying to get our intellectual property, not the least of which is through TikTok, data harvesting. What do you think?
My initial response when I heard it was over Montana is, let's send John Dutton and Rip from Yellowstone out to take this balloon to the train station. But apparently it's massive, the size of what, 3 school buses or something like that. So, you know, this is the reason they're not just shooting it down out of the sky. It's not a little balloon that you take up on a hot air balloon ride, apparently. So, but it is shocking that we didn't hear about this until it passed all the way through Canada, went up over the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. I'm going to imagine down through BC, maybe across Alberta. And then in Montana, of course, they've got some of the nuclear silos. So are they taking high resolution pictures? Is this just a weather balloon, as China wants us to believe? I'm not sure that we can believe anything the dictators in Beijing point out. I'll give you a quick story of how long they've been, or I've been aware of their spying. 25 years ago, I worked in Ottawa in a building next to a Nortel facility. And I remember in the late 90s, staff being arrested because they were spying for China, against Nortel. They were stealing intellectual property. I saw that happen as a reporter in Montreal a few years later. You go down the list, they are interested in everything, be it taking photos from the sky, submarines under the Arctic, stealing intellectual property, partnering with our universities for research projects where they then steal the technology that's developed. All of these things are part of China's plan. We have yet to take them seriously over the last 25 plus years.
So, Jamil, the Pentagon and the Department of National Defense here in Canada have both issued statements. You know, there's no threat to the public. But it may not be a direct threat in terms of our person being harmed. But more broadly speaking, we know that the Chinese government is trying to, infiltrate all aspects of our society. I think the part that is perhaps most troubling is that a flying object the size of nearly 3 buses, with its own technology embedded under it, by the way, went by in Canadian airspace undetected. And I think that this is not going to be the first time they do it. It sure is not going to be the last time they do it. So how do we address this moving forward?
Well, I think it's sort of outrageous for the Canadian government or the US Pentagon to expect the average citizen to not be alarmed by this, given it seems that we're completely incompetent when it comes to responding to China in a satisfactory and adequate manner when it comes to scale. I mean, this is a competing country. It's a competing economy, competing with influence with us all around the world. They're trying to influence our democracy, as you mentioned, through TikTok, influence our culture, our children. And yet our government sort of put these statements out there in response to information about a spy effort, as if we should all just act like it's a everyday occurrence. The fact that Prime Minister Trudeau and President Joe Biden don't have to answer a series of questions about this from the media shows exactly where the media is on the issue as well, which is to not enforce any kind of accountability, not demand any kind of plan or action. But as Brian said, for years and years, decades and decades, just allow this stuff to continue without any real response. So the first way that I think we see any progress or change on the issue is making sure that the people we've tasked to keep our borders legitimate and secure, the people we've tasked to represent the people of this country, actually take it seriously enough to put a plan out for how they're going to stop it from happening again.
Brian, I'm going to give you the last word. It's even gone so far as to suggest, we always hear about disinformation campaigns, infiltration into our election campaigns. There was actual reports and evidence to suggest that China very much was trying to get involved or interfere in some way in our democracy, yet we hear nothing. Why?
Well, look, Stephen Harper tried when he was first elected to take a hard line on China. The business community in this country revolted. He got no end of grief from the diplomatic corps. They refused to cooperate on government plans. I remember those days well. The business community down-talked the government, talked about how they were killing Canadian jobs by doing this. There was a lot of pressure for them, the Harper government, to get on board. He reluctantly changed or softened his position, but didn't go as far as Justin Trudeau did. Justin Trudeau gave a full warm embrace to China in their basic dictatorship. And then we saw what happened with Aaron O'Toole when he tried to take a strong line on China. There was a campaign to stop him. So if you go against China, and they're going to hit back at you. So maybe that's part of why Justin Trudeau's not, or he doesn't see the threat. I think his government is slowly waking up to the threat, but it goes against their basic nature to view China as anything but a friendly state. I don't think he has that within him. He wants to think good of the country that his family has had relations with going back 50, 60 years. And I think that is part of the problem. As for them not answering questions, in fairness, they haven't been out yet, but they do deserve to answer tough questions about this, and I hope they're put to them. I have my doubts, as Jamil does, about whether that will happen, but it needs to happen. Don't just tell us that this is an everyday occurrence or a weather balloon and expect us to take that at face value.
Well, I guess we'll have to keep our eye on the U.S. Pentagon's Twitter account to find out what's going on in our airspace. Log on to Facebook and Twitter, let us know what you think, and go to thetorontosun.com for more on stories like this and coverage you will not find anywhere else.